players a wish of good luck. So joyoung is the host. He does have to skip turn 0. He's able to spend a little bit of time looking around because the time doesn't start until right now as it passes to Arthur's turn, who is sitting there. I think he's deciding where to put his warrior, unless he doesn't know that the game has started. Oh, nope, he's doing stuff. All right, opts for a turn 0 farm, a very solid strategy to do for Zabasi, because that will help improve his income by 1 star, hence what turn 0 tribes do. And it's the exact same thing that joyoung opts to do. Oh, but instead of getting a workshop, he opts for an explorer, which is a very, very solid choice on a tiny map like this, because now joyoung knows exactly where the villages are that he needs to go to. Unfortunately, he didn't get vision on Arthur, but with the vision that he does have, he can make a pretty good deduction of where his enemy is. And he also knows where he needs to expand in order to best, grow and be able to stand toe-to-toe with his foe. And speaking of his foe, Arthur has now found his second village. Going at that scoreboard. Oh, it's because his turn is over. That's why. All right. We see that both players are playing very similarly, with the exception of the explorer. Both have 2 warriors up and running. All right. And I'm just going to go ahead and mute joyoung so we don't have to listen to his music and instead focus on the game. We see joyoung obviously going out towards those villages that he can see. He's keeping his warriors together, so in case he runs into Arthur, he'll be able to really put up a fight and throw some hands. Arthur opting to split up his warriors because he didn't go for an explorer, so he needs to go out and unfog the map on his own. He has 6 stars, and he opts to save the stars because next turn he'll be able to level his city to level 3 with 2 farms, which, that's probably a good thing to do. Very solid choice of money. Oh, and that's interesting. Because these players have met so early, they're trading for stars, and joyoung opts to buy riding, which means he's going to be giving that tech to Arthur for free, which is a very, very big deal, because Zabasi's terrain is pretty open, and they're able to make very good use of riders. So that's 5 stars that Arthur didn't need to spend on researching riders. So he has to think to himself, all right, I have a bit more wiggle room in terms of what I need to actually purchase and what I need to spend my stars on. So let's see, what's he going to do? He has 10 stars. He could opt to get resources on that capital there by buying 2 farms. But he does also have the option of spawning a rider. He's taking a bit of time here, wanting to make sure he gets the most bang for his buck. Now, of course, I will point out, because we are on the new patch, if these players go for free spirit, they will be able to chop forests. Instead, Arthur is opting to send his warrior to reinforce the second city, gets resources on his capital, and spawns a rider. Very solid turn, puts him in a nice position to be able to offensively try and go at joyoung, who is now sieging his second city. Arthur, of course, is going to be able to break that siege, but that's a very, very painful siege to see right there on turn 4. 2 cities, one of your cities on fire. That's pretty painful, especially that early in the game. We see Arthur is tapping on the map. He has a pretty good idea of where joyoung popped out of. joyoung sitting on this turn for a little bit. He's deciding if he wants to keep that rider there, because he knows he gave riding to Arthur, so if he leaves that rider there, he knows it's toast. He opts to leave it there to keep sieging, which is a very valid strategy, because so long as the siege is happening, that's making his research cost more, it's reducing his income, it just makes his life kind of a pain. And he has 7 stars, does have riding, and we're going to have to see what he does with it. If he could level up his second city, but it would be very expensive, so he instead opts to go for a rider. Very solid choice. He already knows that he's under threat, that he has to contend with joyoung's military, so he does need to have those riders there in order to stay alive, like the Bee Gees. All right, we see that both players are kind of taking a similar approach to the game, just slowly militarizing. Here, Arthur goes ahead and gets an explorer, because he does know he was close to joyoung, hoping that he'd be able to get good vision, which he does. He gets vision over most of joyoung, and actually gets enough vision to put that rider onto a village. Very, very big deal there. joyoung, of course, has vision on that, which is going to be kind of troubling to him, because that was one of the villages he was looking to settle for his third city. All right, and opting for more warriors, more riders, more militarization. probably going to see the players take the game a bit more aggressively. All right. joyoung being very competitive there, using the rider to kick Arthur off of that city in the middle and at the same time bounce his rider to the northern city. So unless Arthur can kick him off of that central city, it's looking to be joyoung getting 4 cities against Arthur's 2, and at the same time boxing him into that eastern corner, which would be a very big deal and really make this game a lot harder for Arthur. So he opts to weaken weaken the warrior in the center. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to actually reach there. No, he doesn't have enough range on his rider. He'd need roads, and if I'm not mistaken, roads would be too expensive. Yeah, roads are too expensive. But he is poised like a puma ready to strike, ready to kick him off of that village there in the center. And of course, Arthur's no dummy. He knows that he needs to get another city there in order to be viable, because otherwise he will be boxed in 4 cities or more against 2. Which is not a very easy fight to win, especially on a tiny map, where every little advantage counts so much more. All right, joyoung, taking a second to think, opts to settle both cities, so that means we're not really going to see him expecting to research anything anytime soon, because that is going to make his research pretty expensive, especially at this stage in the game. And he's thinking, because he knows that Arthur has his sights set on that middle village. Let's see what he opts to do. Opts to put up the pressure there on that southern front. So let's see where these other riders are going to go. That one goes off, explores. It's also ready to go ahead and support that city there in the center. And if I were a gambling man, I think he's going to go ahead, just spawn more riders. It's interesting that we're seeing very, very competitive. Not competitive is not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Aggressive. That's the word I'm looking for. A very aggressive game from both players. Neither of them have really leveled up their cities too much. No cities leveled up beyond level 4. Well, beyond level 3. And instead opting for riders and riders and riders and riders. Which seems to be working out very well for joyoung, who has pretty much effectively boxed Arthur into a corner here in the east. And Arthur knows he's got to find a way out of this. He's got to find a way to break out of there. Take another city. I think instead we see him gathering a lot of forces there in the south, right by the capital. I think we're seeing Arthur trying to perhaps bank on kind of a blitzkrieg. Because once he takes that capital, it's over. If he can find a way to both siege that capital and effectively block joyoung's other riders from reinforcing, well, then it's going to be GG. But joyoung obviously sees this massive buildup of troops on his border. And he needs to think of a way, all right, I have to keep him from just blocking my boys from reinforcing the capital. He's spreading out more. Spawning a warrior on the capital, that's a very smart move. Warriors have a bit more defense than riders, so they are able to better hold on to those cities. And given that the capital is the most important city of the game, I'd say that's a place you want extra defense. And let's see what he's opting to do. Where's he going to move this rider in the north? He's moving it towards that ruin there, but he also has it set up in such a way that it could also possibly reinforce and help in case Arthur launches some sort of a surprise invasion force there in the center to try and cut off that city in the north. All right, he has 6 stars. Opts to train a warrior because, again, he knows that village is a bit vulnerable. Arthur did go for it a few turns ago. The player is thinking, got 4 more stars. Does he want to spend? Does he want to save? He opts to save. All right, let's see how joyoung is going to respond here. I'm sorry, how Arthur is going to respond here. He has quite a few riders here. And here's a puzzle for the day. Is Arthur going to find a way to potentially siege this turn? I'm thinking probably not. He does opt for the kill on the warrior, though. And he sees that that rider is at 2 out of 3 kill progress to become a veteran, which is a pretty big deal. Veteran riders are pretty darn scary if you're fighting against them. All right, and it looks like we are seeing him. All right, where is he going to move this? Because he wants to keep this rider alive. He can promote it to a veteran and really put in some serious work. Looks at the tech tree, sees he can't afford anything. All right, looks like he's just poised to continue the fight. Ooh, that is a big deal. joyoung finding a giant in that ruin, which honestly looks like, for now, given how underdeveloped their economies are, probably going to be the only giant that joyoung has for now, anyway. And if he can find a way to move that guy over towards Arthur, that's going to be a huge deal, especially since right now the only answer Arthur has to this giant is riders and warriors, which is a pretty difficult way to answer something like a giant, right? And it looks like we are seeing now joyoung use some of his leverage here economically to boost his economy just a little bit. Because the bigger economy you have, the more units you can support. The more units you can support, the more pressure you can put on your opponent. You see him opting for more warriors there in the south again, probably for that defense bonus, because he sees that's 4 or 5 riders with another warrior, 6 units right there that could possibly be in range of the capital. So you want to have as much defense on that capital as possible, particularly since once that capital is gone, it is GG, game over, pack it up, go home. All right, and here we can see it. Arthur's gone for roads. He has 6 stars left, so he can make 3 roads. And the question remains, is he going to find a way to road these units in and light that capital on fire? We see him taking some time to think. And we see the first road put down. Rider goes in, opts to kill the warrior that's supporting the one on the capital. Oh, and he sees that that village is unoccupied. If he can find a way to kill one of the other riders, he could bounce it on and get, hypothetically, 2 sieges this turn, which is nothing to sneeze at all. And we see him here, sieging with a veteran rider, very excellently played there by our friend Arthur. Moving up the rider, getting a second siege off. Wow, what a turn. With 1 road, ladies and gentlemen. 2 sieges, and riders that have moved up and are going to be able to block joyoung from sending in riders to reinforce. This, I'm not going to lie, folks, I won't sugarcoat it. This is looking very bad for joyoung. I think this was the breakthrough that Arthur needed. If he can find a way to position these riders so that joyoung can't reinforce that capital, can't get enough units in range to kill the 15 health rider, that's it. So that's why we see Arthur taking a while to decide where those riders need to go. This is a big turn right now for joyoung. This will decide whether the game continues on or whether it is GG. And quite frankly, with all these riders that Arthur is using to block, I don't think we're going to see joyoung actually break through and take his capital back. He got another giant from the ruin, but what good is that going to do? It's like 20 miles away from the capital. It's not going to be able to do anything. We see joyoung sitting here thinking. He needs to find a way to kill that veteran rider, but with everything blocking the way, I don't think he can do it. He's exiting to menu, and ladies and gentlemen, I think we see it. There it is. That's the surrender. It is over. GG, well played. Let's undeafen our players. My, oh my, what a game. Arthur, joyoung, players, wow, what a fantastic game.
Well played.
Wow,
that was extremely wonderfully done.
Yeah.
Extremely wonderfully done.
I'm wondering if at that point you could have stopped it anyways if you moved your warrior somewhere else, and I don't think you could have. So it was a few turns back.
I mean, sieging with a veteran rider is bad enough, but then having all those riders blocking his way forward, that's just brutal. Also,
one thing I want to add, I was playing some matches against Cora earlier, and the exact same thing happened to me, right? I had so many more cities, but I had just left my capital a little bit too undefended and overextended. Because you see all the cities, right? And you're like, oh yeah, there's no way I can lose.
Right.
But yeah, I was even saying in the commentary that you were effectively boxed in and it wasn't looking too good. And then here you are, turn 9, boom, everything's turned upside down. Yeah, that was a fantastic game. Absolutely just beautiful.
Hey, Arthur, was that a misclick with one of your riders 2 turns before the finish?
No, I did put it on the village on purpose, but that was just a bad play, not a misclick.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't have vision. I should have known that your warrior was already off the village, but for some reason I wasn't thinking, and I just put it on there and got greedy. Normally, I know from all the barter I've played, I'm like never land on villages, just always assume it's gonna get killed. And for some reason, I just decided to jump on it, and at that point, I was like, okay, capital rush. That's all there is.
Yeah. Yeah. Smackers in chat saying that you turned your disadvantage into an advantage. 100%. That's perhaps the greatest summary of this game that I can think of. And looking at the time, I don't think we didn't even go halfway through the time. That was a very, very quick game. Wow.
Yeah. Well, not much else to say there other than, overextending. You see all those cities and you instantly think, oh yeah, I'm looking so good right now. I understand exactly what it's like. So
for sure.
Yeah, I had a feeling when you were kind of holding all your riders back that you were planning something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but I got
I'll just move it here.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't all right.
I'll be all right. No, I won't be all right. Cora pointing out in chat, 13 minutes left for joyoung and 12 minutes left for Arthur. Yeah, that was
so like
considerably quicker than most of the other games.
10-minute game.
Yeah, just
Very
wow.
nice. All right, well.
Excellently